believe what the media does to Ron Paul?
It's crazy. Like the one time when he had a crowd of 8,000 and the same day they asked where he was.
Yeah, isn't that ridiculous?
What can we do about it?
Well, we could make a difference.
We could be the media.
Wow!
Welcome to the Liberty Live Stream Team Show featuring Suriyah
and Qadoshyah Fish. Hi everyone! Welcome back to the show. We're coming, we've got a few things to talk about tonight. We're going to play one quick song and then we'll get right into it. We're coming off a real exciting weekend. We had a fun Liberty party at our place, and we lost about 150 people here, so it was a lot of fun. Everyone around the country sure to do parties around each other, and so they have time to be around each other and continue on this Liberty movement. So we're going to play this quick video, then we'll get into stuff. John, where's the video? I'm supposed to play a video here. Okay, sorry about that. I guess we aren't playing a video right now. That's fine. We'll just get back to working what we're going to talk about.
No, we just had a big old party on Sunday, and it was good to be around lots of Ron Paul and liberty-loving people. So get everybody motivated to stay involved and keep up this fight to get our country back.
So there's a lot that we could talk about, but something that came up last week on the Daily Poll was about Ron Paul delegates and how they're going to vote in Tampa. And it can be a debated topic, lots of opinions going on what way people are going to go, whether they're going to vote for whatever the campaign tells them, whether they're going to vote according to their state party rules pledge, whether they're going to vote whether they're an unbound delegate, so they're just going to vote for Ron Paul as it is, or there's a lot of variations there. So what really should Ron Paul delegates do in Tampa? That's what we're kind of going to talk about today. So we all know that this movement is a lot bigger than Ron Paul. It's not just Ron Paul, it's the Liberty movement, and we're going to go on long after Ron Paul. But right now, for those of us who might be delegates, we have one goal for the next couple months, and that's to nominate Ron Paul in Tampa. And I hope that's every delegate who is a Ron Paul supporter. I hope that would be their goal in Tampa, is to nominate Ron Paul. And so I want to focus on that right now, because there's I've seen some things with the campaign, and a lot of people, don't like what the campaign does. I'm not into all the Jesse Benton conspiracy stuff. I don't like what he's done a few times, and what he says, but it's not the end all. I'm not going to go on and try to see what he's trying to do, because we don't know what is really going on behind the scenes. So I'll give a few examples of some things that state coordinators have done that really haven't been helpful to the campaign, and then we'll kind of go from there. In Colorado, the grassroots Ron Paul supporters were presented with a different slate than what they had worked on for weeks, and it was a slate that included people who weren't Ron Paul supporters, and this was brought to them by a national campaign and the state coordinator for Ron Paul's campaign. And so that threw a lot of grassroots supporters for a loop at the convention, and we'll just watch a short little snippet of that video so you can kind of see what they had going on
there. Okay, Christine, tell us about the shenanigans that are happening over at that table.
Tell us about the shenanigans that are happening.
Campaign over here, set up a table, told us that we could use it to put our flyers on it. We talked with Matt Holdridge for a 2-hour conference, and we let him know that we're not comfortable voting for people that we know are not going to vote for Ron Paul at National. And we also told him we're not comfortable voting for people who we don't know at all. And then he said, okay, we let him know that because CD5 is the largest CE, we have the largest conservative voters in El Paso. We wanted to take control of this because we know the people. We know who will definitely vote for Ron Paul, and we wanted to do it the principled way.
Yeah.
Matt understood that and said, okay, you guys go with your stuff, and I'll let National know. Well, apparently, what he let National know is not to tell us anything that's going on. He allowed us to save hundreds of dollars, each of us personally.
Yeah, on a lot of stuff.
Into campaigning. This is our slate that we put together. We all spent hours at meetings. We all spent hours talking to other delegates. We spent hours talking on the phone. We spent hours meeting and greeting people, and developing a flyer and slate and this slate. But then now we're being told by National that what they want to do is they want us all to throw our votes away to people who are unpledged. I don't know if any of them at all are Ron Paul supporters. I'm assuming maybe not any of them are Ron Paul.
I don't even know who's sitting there at that table.
Yeah, and then,
I don't know the what makes them official, because we created this slate for weeks. This is the slate that's been going on for weeks.
And we actually elected in El Paso the Ron Paul campaign in El Paso County. Elected these 6 people, of course I'm there too, to run for this campaign, to be a Ron Paul delegate and a Ron Paul alternate. So that way we know there's no way any of us is going to change our votes. We're all declared, we're not covert, we want to do it the principled way.
And
now,
every person here is either an unpledged delegate or Santorum supporter, and that's who they're saying is the unity card. Flip that.
And yet, here we go. Now, I could be misquoting, and I hope I'm not. I did talk to Kent Lambert. He's a friend of ours. I really do like him a lot. He's a Santorum supporter. I talked to him after Santorum dropped out of the race or froze his campaign. And Kent indicated that he is not a Ron Paul supporter at all. He told me he does not believe in Ron Paul's foreign policy, and he cannot go along with Ron Paul's economics. So I'm not quite sure what is left after that. So apparently this is what National wants us to vote for. Someone who's not going to vote for Ron
apparently,
Paul.
and we have no idea who those people at that table are.
Yeah.
We know each other.
Yeah, and then another Ron Paul delegate just came up, and she's from the same county as this other man, Gar Graham. She recognized his name. She said, yeah, I know him. He's not a Ron Paul supporter. He hates Ron Paul. So now I'm wondering, the one unpledged person on here, also a non-Ron Paul supporter, they know there's nobody on this slate from CD5, from their national office, who's going to vote Ron Paul at national. So we're really discouraged about that. We feel like we've been shot in the back. And I would ask, though, that Ron Paul people at CD5 will vote for Ron Paul people. I hope that we've all learned well from you, Mr. Paul, that we're going to do it the principled way. We're not going undercover. We're not going to lie to anybody. If someone wants to vote for us because we represent you, then God bless them, and we'll take their vote. If they don't want to vote,
so there's just a little snippet of what happened to the people in Colorado. The national campaign didn't work with them. And in Oklahoma, we had our own problems with the state coordinator, a myriad of problems that I'm not going to get into all the details. We actually had to send a letter to the national campaign asking them to remove him, and he since stepped down, but his contact information is still on the National's website. I don't know why, but one thing he did when well, I'll give a little bit of history. At our congressional district, which was one of the first districts to hold their convention, he had told us we had people who did not show up because of an email he had sent out, and therefore we lost delegate spots for Ron Paul because people didn't like the email. People didn't like the email that he sent out prior to district. So in the email he said, no doubt there are Suriyah candidates running for the same national delegate slot, but on Saturday you have a choice. Do you support Dr. Paul or do you support unofficial candidates that are unknown to the Ron Paul national campaign? And so he indicated that if we didn't support these quote-unquote vetted candidates from the supposedly they were approved for by the Ron Paul campaign, then we were going against Dr. Paul. Now, we all know that isn't the case. I mean, the only reason why we were involved in this process to be delegates was for Ron Paul. And so whether we were vetted by the national campaign or not had nothing to do with our support for or against Ron Paul. And so that email, there was a lot more said in that email, and it's all online, so you could Google it, but that turned a lot of people off. And so we lost delegate spots by simply 2 votes. We lost the 2 votes, and I know there are more than 2 people who didn't come to that convention. So we had that problem there in Oklahoma. Nevada's had their fair share of problems with staff coordinators and state coordinators and campaign managers. And then Arkansas, we recently went there and we saw the problems that were caused by the state coordinator there. She, if you watched our last show, she was hesitant to have anyone come live stream the summer committee meeting a week ago, and she really didn't like the thought of us coming, and being there at all. And I talked to delegates there, and she said, who had said that she had made them sign a pledge saying they would vote for Mitt Romney in Tampa. Now, Arkansas, Arkansas does their binding a little different than some states, so in a way, I can see where she's coming from. But she sent an email out to some delegates and said this. She said, anyone who steps out of line, meaning voting for Paul in Tampa, will not have the support of the campaign and likely not have the support of the Arkansas Constitutional Republicans. I can promise you will not have my support. Now, this is Monica Serrano, the state coordinator for Ron Paul's campaign in Arkansas. She says, I can promise you will not have my support. I have great sway with many in this movement, and I will make it my mission to prevent you from taking part in our actions going forward. So she says if you're a delegate who decides to vote for Ron Paul in Tampa, then you are not going to have the support of her, and she's going to try to keep you out of the Liberty Movement, simply because of your vote for Ron Paul in Tampa. Yeah, and Monica sent this out in an email to delegates, and this is not the only email she sent out. So it's not the only thing that made her sound this bad. Now, some people are going to say, I understand where she's coming from, because Arkansas uses a mixed system of proportional, a delegate proportional system called kind of a mixed system, because it's the proportional representation and also winner take all. And so if the candidate gets over 60% of the vote, then he gets all the delegates from that state. So since Mitt Romney got over 60%, Ron Paul doesn't get any of the vote. But we all know that delegates can, potentially vote as they wish in Tampa. So I can, I see where people come from, but it's not how anyone in the Ron Paul movement and the Liberty movement would tell people to go against, to vote for Mitt Romney, and that if they vote for Paul in Tampa, that they'll be banned from the Liberty movement. That's just, that's unacceptable, completely uncalled for. Now, we don't know, we all know that the RNC rules that there's no binding according to the RNC. It's just done by each state party you know, and each state has its own rules on who's bound and whatnot. But, you know, and then there is Rule 38, which a lot of people say does and binds all delegates, but it's a little, you know, there's some questionability of like what the exact rules on that are because of the unit rule and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to play a video that Ben Swan did that kind of explains some of this, and then we'll kind of go on from there.
One week ago, Reality Check told you about one reason why the Republican presidential nomination is far from locked up. But at least one blogger says Ben got it wrong. Did he? The answer in a Reality Check, reply all.
The issue at hand, our reality check on Rule 38 of the Republican National Convention rules. As I told you last week, way down at the end of the RNC rules is rule number 38. That rule consists of only one sentence. No delegate or alternate delegate shall be bound by any attempt of any state or congressional district to impose the unit rule. So what is the unit rule? Well, that rule requires that all delegates from one state or congressional district are required or bound to vote as a unit. After that story aired, a blog post titled "Urgent, Ben Swan and Matt Larson are wrong about Rule 38 and delegates being unbound based on RNC rules." Now, the author here does a good job of raising some very valid points. At the heart of his argument, the states get around this rule by not binding the entire group of delegates. They always have at least one delegate unbound, and it's usually 3 unbound delegates. So they are not enforcing a unit rule in any way. Therefore, Rule 38 does not apply to the argument. And that is true. For instance, in Ohio, we have 66 delegates, and they are bound delegates. But of those 66, there are 3 RNC delegates who have the freedom to vote however they choose. Therefore, the blogger correctly states that this allows the RNC to get around the unit rule. But the blogger may not be entirely correct. I stand by our argument that it very well may be that none of the delegates, when they reach the Republican National Convention, are actually bound. And it isn't just our theory. An extensive article at fairvote.org has taken a very close look at this issue. And the truly important issue is this. The author states that the RNC rules provision on the unit rule make it clear that delegates are not bound to vote according to how most delegates from their state are voting. They go on to say delegates can vote according to their own judgment and conscience. So, what is all of this based on? Actually, it's not our interpretation of the RNC rules or fairvote.org's interpretation. It is the interpretation of the RNC Legal Counsel. In 2008, this issue came up. It was actually in Utah, where a delegate did not want to join with the rest of the state and vote for John McCain, and instead demanded that his vote be cast for Mitt Romney. McCain won Utah with 62% of the vote in 2008. But here's the most important part. In that delegate's fight to cast a dissenting vote was this statement over the specific issue. Jennifer Sheehan, legal counsel for the RNC, plainly stated in a letter to Nancy Lord, Utah National Committee woman, several weeks before the convention, the RNC does not recognize a state's binding of national delegates, but considers each delegate a free agent who can vote for whoever they choose. And the National Convention allows delegates to vote for the individual of their choice, regardless of whether the person's name is officially placed into nomination or not. And that statement is about as clear as it gets. The delegate process was actually designed to entrust a group of voters with the power to override the popular vote in each state in order to ensure that the best candidate is chosen. Now, keep in mind, the Republican and the Democratic parties are not government agencies. They're private organizations, more like clubs. So voting within a party is not bound by election law. And that's what you need to know. The national media isn't telling you something very important. This past weekend, Congressman Ron Paul swept the delegates in 2 states, in Nevada and in Maine. At this point, all the delegate momentum appears to be on his side. So, much of what we've been telling you for months has now finally been mentioned by several national outlets. Bloomberg Business, U.S. News and World Report, even radio host Mark Levin this week have finally started to hint at the idea that, well, maybe Tampa isn't going to be inevitable after all. Stay tuned. And that is Reality Check.
If you'd like to make your voice heard on the story, head over to Ben's Facebook page. You can find it by searching Ben Swan, WXIX.
All right, guys. So there's that. That was a very educational video from Ben Swan on the delegates. You know, we don't know the exact number of delegates that Ron Paul has. It could be a lot. It could be not enough, but we don't really know. As far as I would say, because I'm sure there's quite a few delegates who have been elected who have not openly said who they support. So I can hope it's a large amount, and hopefully he'll easily get the nomination. Well, you know, we just have to wait and see. You know, there's still a lot of people are still trying to. I've seen some people try to argue in favor of the Arkansas State coordinator, but I don't really care what the personally. I don't really care what the context of those emails are. For someone to say they'd be banned from the Liberty Movement because of potentially voting for Ron Paul in Tampa. What if they all became unbound in Tampa? So she's going to still say that that person's banned from the Liberty Movement because they voted for Ron Paul in Tampa? I don't see it. I don't see any justification for going to those kind of extremes. Each state is different, and each person has to deal with it a different way because of the pledge they may have had to sign. Some may not have had to sign any pledge. The way, you know, some states just someone goes and throws a vote. The delegation chair or the governor just goes and throws the entire group vote. No one has any say in the vote, which I don't think should be the way it is, but such is life. So you know, I'm not going to say it's a way on some people, you know, to say you're wrong if you just follow your pledge, because you have to follow a pledge at times, you know, on this delegate stuff, but not every state makes someone sign a pledge. I know in Oklahoma, when you sign up to be a national delegate, you have to sign something saying you will vote according to how you are bound, and if you don't vote according to how you are bound, then you'll be sanctioned and have something happen to you back in your home state. Nothing will happen to you at the RNC because there's no delegates bound at the RNC according to the RNC rules. And so it's you know, it can be a tricky situation if you are a bound delegate. Thankfully, there's some delegates who aren't bound or who are bound to people who have already dropped out, so it makes it a little easier at times. Just make sure okay. So the next thing I want to, you know, address is, since we have this binding issue taken care of, you know, what is really the heart of the issue? How should a delegate vote? I'm going to mainly talk about those who are unbound. Those who are bound to somebody have a little bit of a different, you know, situation to deal with. Are they going to follow their binding, or are they going to not follow their binding? But and you know, are they going to follow their state party rules if there are state party rules or not? But those who are unbound, what are we going to do? Are you going to follow by what the national campaign says to do? You know, I recently read someone saying, well, if the national campaign told me to vote for Mitt Romney, then I would vote for Mitt Romney. And that really gets under my skin. I'm going to get on a soapbox now, I guess, and because we know the state that our country's in. It's in a really bad state, and the reason why we're so involved in this liberty movement is to get our country back on the right track. We need to get back to following our Constitution, unlike the Supreme Court did, you know, to this last week. We need to elect a president who's actually going to bring our troops home and stop going to all these crazy wars. We need to just allow freedom to reign and not have all these crazy regulations. I mean, we all know why we're in this, and it's a really simple reason why we're in this. So if you are an unbound delegate and you're going to go to Tampa and do whatever the campaign says, and they tell you to vote for Mitt Romney, which I find hard to believe, but they tell you to vote for Mitt Romney, where is your principle? Where is any kind of passion that you might have for the whole entire reason you are involved? And the whole goal of being a delegate, a national delegate, at least for those I know and the majority of Ron Paul supporters, is to nominate Ron Paul in Tampa. And it's really that simple. Yeah, this liberty movement is a lot bigger than that, but for the next 2 months until Tampa is over, that is the biggest goal we have. And it's really our duty to follow through with. Ron Paul asked us to be delegates and asked us to get involved in the process. And so it's the only reason why we owe it to him to go nominate him and vote for him in Tampa. You know, I was recently, I talked to a national delegate in Nevada a couple weeks ago, and I couldn't agree more with what he said. He said, even if Ron Paul told me that he didn't want the nomination, I would still nominate him, and he would have to go up to that microphone and refuse the nomination, which I'd find hard to believe, honestly. But we would nominate him whether he wanted it or not, and if he refused that nomination, then we would know our job as a delegate and our duty was done. We have successfully done what we came to do, and he didn't want it, or, you know, I would say, and he's still in this to win. He's still in this to the national convention. So why would we change anything? Okay, the campaign's been quiet on some stuff, but do you really think they're going to release all their game strategy? I would find that really hard to believe that they're going to release their entire strategy of what they're going to do in Tampa. I mean, you gotta kind of have to keep some things to yourself because, you know, we have a lot of enemies, and they don't, as we've seen at multiple conventions, they don't want to follow the rules, and they'll do whatever they can to reject us being involved in the party. You know, so I just don't get how anyone who is on this path for the liberty movement would simply give up if the campaign or someone told them to vote for Mitt Romney. What if you go there and you say, oh, well, I was told to vote for Mitt Romney even though I'm unbound and have the chance to vote for Ron Paul? You have just totally betrayed what you've even been going for the last 5, 6, however many months it's been since he signed up as a delegate. I mean, Ron Paul, we have to look at the example that Ron Paul has given us, and he has given us an example of, he's known as Dr. No, because he stood alone by himself for 30 years, voting no matter what people told him to do, you know, whether he's the lone vote or not. He stood on principle. He hasn't changed. And so we need to do the same thing. We need to stand on principle, not compromise, and vote on what's right. And what's right is getting Ron Paul nominated. Do you want to say anything?
Right now, the movement is to elect Ron Paul, obviously, and get him as president. But when it comes down to it, the movement is a lot bigger than just Ron Paul. Ron Paul started it, but as one of our Oklahoma delegates likes to say, she says, we started this process for a man, and we're going to finish this fight for the future. So even if Ron Paul does not get the nomination, you can't just give up and, you know, get out of the fight for liberty. Otherwise, you're not helping anybody.
Yeah, we just have to do what's right, and what's right for those of us who are national delegates is to nominate Ron Paul and to stay true to principles. There's no other, there's really no other questions about it. It's really, really quite simple. You know, we know this fight's really far from over, but we have to continue to vote and stand on principle, whether it's what the common person would like you to do or not. You know, we haven't lost yet. Ron Paul still is in this. We are still making progress. Whether people say the nomination is tied up or not, it's not done. Tampa is when it will ultimately be decided. No nominee is going to be chosen until then. And so we need to just go on with it. It doesn't matter what Rand Paul has done. He's not Ron Paul. Rand Paul is his own person, and he's done his own thing, and don't let any of it, discourage you. It's really quite simple, and I'd hope everyone would stick to that, because it's a real important thing for all of us. Does anyone have any questions? Particularly, we could continue going on, but I just wanted to see if anyone has any questions they might want us to address.
The most important thing we can do is just stand on principle and keep on voting for people and electing people that support freedom and the Constitution at the local level and the national level.
Yeah, well, we can continue to stand on principle, and what do we mean by principle? It's really quite easy. It's two things: standing for what's right in the Constitution. It's really pretty easy. You got to stand. If you stand on the Constitution, then everything else will fall into place. Really. Yes, we do plan to be at the Fall Festival, and hopefully we will be live streaming it. Some of that's still being worked out. Liberty candidates in Oklahoma. There's a few of them here. There's Charles Keys down in Oklahoma County. There's Nathan Dahm up in Tulsa County area. So those are a couple of the candidates.
What are our values as American voters? We're pro-life, and we don't need to be fighting all these wars. We need to have a fiscal policy too.
Yeah, well, we come from a homeschool family, so that kind of, largely shapes our views. And so we do, and we're Christians who believe the Bible, and so that greatly influences all of our views. But the reason we are involved actively like this is because we know that just being involved as an individual at the local level and the state level, and then also the national convention level, you can make a difference with your vote. And so, being pro-life, the Constitution, anti-war, those are all the biggest things for us. And the life is one of the biggest things, and liberty. When you have a large family and you care for your family, you don't want to see your nation go down a road that is the communist road, and when you can see the implications that it might have for your family and how it might destroy them.
Just standing on what our country was founded on, basically.
Exactly. We don't have press passes for the Fall Festival yet. We do want them, and we're supposed to be working on that. So some of us will be going in as under the delegate and alternate pass, some of us on the Liberty live stream team, myself included, but there's a few others who will be needing press passes for the Fall Festival. What would be our next move if Ron Paul doesn't win the nomination?
Keep on fighting.
Yeah, really no different than it is now. You just got to keep getting everybody together, working at the local level. You got to take your county positions in the Republican Party, spread them, get groups together, meetups together, have meetings with, informational speakers so people can be informed. So people can be informed. Really just keeping everyone. I mean, we're in this for the long haul. This is not a short-term thing. We have to be in this all the way. For the rest of our lives. There's no other questions about it. We're worried about that Tampa will be a crazy place. It's a little concerning to see that they're doing various police state actions in Tampa, but we'll see what exactly happens. We're peaceful people and don't like to get into any kind of trouble with any sort of, law thing or anything like that. So we'll see what exactly happens with that.
The RNC has always been type of a police state event, so who knows if it'll be worse this year or not.
Yeah, I know several delegates from Oklahoma who either were guests or delegates in alternates in 2008, and they say it was one of the worst times of their life, and so, because of all the police state stuff. But what we have to keep in mind is that we're doing this, we're going through all this trouble, the money it's going to cost us, the time it's going to take us, going to a place where we don't want to be with a bunch of neocons and people who believe in policing the world and policing every aspect of your life, because we don't want that happening to our entire nation. We don't want that happening to every single level. We don't want to live in a police state, and so that's why we're going through all this trouble. There's, the lawsuit that's going on. Honestly, I haven't been able to keep up with all the details of it. I think there's potentially some good on it, but I'm not involved with it.
I'm not involved with it much either, so I'm not sure.
I know several of our delegates in Oklahoma who are taking the charge to get plaintiffs involved and witnesses and all that kind of stuff, but we can't. I've been doing too much else with getting Oklahoma organized for, various other things, and it's simply because I think the Republicans are scared of the Ron Paul people. I mean, yeah, a lot of you probably saw what happened at the Arkansas State Committee meeting, with someone just tearing up Ron Paul supporters in District 4. So they really are scared of us because we represent truth. Ron Paul campaign still wants to win.
I don't know if the Ron Paul campaign still wants to win. I think they do, and I don't really care what they want right now, basically, because we got Ron Paul nominated, then I'm sure he'll take the nomination. So, and that's our goal. So.
Well, he's still in this win. I mean, if you saw the video he sent to his, the message to his supporters, he didn't concede in it or anything like that. And then the video just a few days later with someone on CNN, I think it was, he said we're in this all the way to the convention. So I don't think there's nothing that would change anything we're doing. The Oklahoma parking lot convention delegate, that's still in the works. There's still stuff going on. Right now we're just, we submitted a challenge to the Oklahoma GOP and they refused to hear it. So we just, it'll have to go on to the national level. And so for now, we just have to wait and see what happens with that. Just imagine the possibility, the impact Ron Paul supporters could have in Oklahoma. I mean, not in Oklahoma, Tampa. Yeah, we're having a big impact in Oklahoma too, but in Tampa, we could have a huge impact. What if Ron Paul was able to speak at the convention, which I hear he's supposed to be able to speak. But imagine him speaking. He could be able to change the hearts of all those delegates there simply because people hear him finally. It's a simple reality that something that could happen really easily. I saw people in Texas who, after they heard him speak, were coming out of that place crying, saying, I've been duped. And that's really the bottom line to it. If I could get up on stage in front of the Republican National Convention and all those delegates and get on my knees and beg them all to vote for Ron Paul and vote for what's right, I would. No matter what everyone thought. If everyone thought I was a crazy person, that's fine. But it's so important to us to get Ron Paul elected. Otherwise, our nation's just really doomed. Whether we have 4 years of Obama or 8 more years of
Romney, you forgot his name.
Of Romney. I forgot his name there. You know, it's really something that's very important to us. And so we have a lot of possibility. You have to stay optimistic. You really do. You know, Oklahoma's had a lot of stuff put up against us. You know, we've continued to come through with it. You know, we're not things aren't over yet. None of this will be over until Tampa. And so,
and even then, it's not going to be over.
Exactly. But for the nomination of Ron Paul, whether he gets it or not, and we really have to, you know, just don't give up. I hear a lot of people who talk about, who are real defeated when they talk, and aren't optimistic, and are already giving up about stuff. And we can't give up yet because it's not over. It doesn't matter what the mainstream media tells us. It doesn't matter any of that. We just have to continue to go on and fight for Ron Paul and fight for liberty and fight for what's right.
Thankfully, here in Oklahoma, all of our Ron Paul delegates are very motivated and aren't going to give up. So everybody in every single state needs to be like that.
Visiting Arkansas was a little bit a surprise to me, I suppose you could say. Some of the people I talked to were really defeated in their attitude. I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? You know, really, there's nothing to be defeated about. Okay, the news is garbage, so don't listen to it, because then you won't be disappointed, you know? If you don't listen to the news, then you won't hear all the Mitt Romney's a nominee, Mitt Romney's vice president is this or that, you know? Yes, I talked to the delegates there, you know, who were discouraged, and I tried to encourage them. I don't know if I had any success, but I tried to encourage them and tell them it's not over. You can't listen to what the campaign's telling you if some crazy state coordinator is telling you to vote for Mitt Romney. That's a bunch of garbage. If you're bound somehow, then that's another story. But I'm talking about unbound delegates, and if you're bound, then that's up to you to decide whether you're going to vote according to how you're bound or not, you know?
Yeah, you have to make the decision for yourself if you're going to vote. Stand on what you believe and vote for Ron Paul. If you vote for Romney or Obama, you know, you're part of the problem that got this country to the place it is.
Yeah, the Arkansas Ron Paul state coordinator asked us not to come and basically told us not to come. And so, you know, we just kind of came anyways and were real quiet and in what we were doing. So, you know, does anybody have any more questions regarding any of this? Just wants to keep preaching at it. Yes, I do think Ron Paul wants the nomination. Just the fact that he's still in the race and hasn't dropped out should tell us a lot. It should give us all the optimism and hope that we need, because he's still in. He didn't suspend any campaign. He's still going to conventions. He's still winning delegates. There's nothing that would tell us that anything has changed. It doesn't matter, like I said earlier, it doesn't matter that Rand Paul endorsed Romney. That's garbage as far as I'm concerned. And so just continue on the same course that we've been on since we started getting involved in this campaign.
As far as writing Ron Paul in if he doesn't get the nomination, in Oklahoma it is illegal, so I mean, we can't do that, unfortunately.
Otherwise we should, yeah, if he doesn't get the nomination. So it's, have we talked to any shadow delegates? I don't think I have, that I can recall. Most of the ones I know, some of them may not be openly supporting Ron Paul, announcing it to the world, but I haven't really talked to anyone like that. There's every state's party rules are different, in that some states have some kind of penalty. I don't know. In Oklahoma, you're not arrested if you don't vote according to how you're pledged. Either they won't count your votes, or you'll just be sanctioned from the party, whatever that means, when you get back from Tampa. So there's some they're really going to try everything they can, I think, to keep Ron Paul from getting the nomination, but I believe miracles happen, and we'll do our best to see him through.
And as far as voting on November 6th, hopefully it'll be Ron Paul, because hopefully he'll have the Republican nomination.
I've heard people say, well, I'll go to Gary Johnson, who's a Libertarian candidate, if they can't vote for Ron Paul, and really, he's not any good at all. We had a chance to briefly meet him in Texas at the pub, and he was, I didn't really
He's
like him.
pro-choice, pro-abortion, so that is the biggest thing for us, basically.
That's all that I need to know, is that he's pro-choice, and so it does it for me. I can't vote for him. And also, I've heard that he's not real strong on some of the war stuff. I don't know all those details, but pro-choice is enough. Oklahoma Senate House, there are 2 candidates for Oklahoma Senate, and one's Howard Houchin, and the other one is Nathan Dahm, and that's D-A-H-M. One's in Tulsa County in District 1, and one's in District 2. They're both really, Liberty candidates, real good on the issues from what I know. Nathan Dahm's just next door to us, otherwise we would vote for him. So, does anyone have any other particular questions? You guys can see our blog, libertyliveblogteam.wordpress.com. We post stuff on there whenever we go to conventions, or, we'll talk about the delegate stuff and everything I've just been preaching to about.
You can visit the Oklahoma Parking Lot Patriots website too. What is it?
okliberty.com. And there's and also our YouTube channel is Liberty Stream Team.
Yes, the Oklahoma Parking Lot Patriot delegates will show up in Tampa.
Yeah, the delegates and alternates will be there no matter what, because we were elected in the convention, which was the rightful one, and so we have to go and play our part. Some people were elected for different committees, and the GOP had to hold their own separate delegate caucus, and we held our own separate delegate caucus because we have enough district delegates to kind of control the majority of the delegations in Oklahoma for the district level. And so we held a caucus, and we voted in people on the conservative slate to serve on committees. And so those of us who signed in on that need to go anyways in time for those committees, whether they want to acknowledge us, ahead of time or not. So you can reach both of us on Facebook. I'll have John put our Facebook pages down in the chat there. That's our names are too hard to spell.
I guess yesterday I'll tell you all we had a big huge party for Liberty. We had quite a few folks here.
About 150.
Had lots of Liberty songs and speeches and dances and pony rides, and so everybody in every state, you should try to get together with your local Liberty-minded people and inspire each other to keep on going, I guess.
Yeah, it was a really great time yesterday. We had a lot of songs, some of which are not online yet. They'll be up soon. We wrote a particular song for the Oklahoma Parking Lot Patriots. It fits what we had to go through really well. We talked about how that night we had to stand up on our feet and get out of our seats so that because the rules they tried to put up, to hold us back fell down, and we choreographed a dance to that since we were hoping to be able to do that at the Fall Festival as well.
That's still in the works, so.
Yes, don't get too excited yet. Those of us in Oklahoma are real fired up about all this kind of stuff and real motivated, so we need to, we have a lot to keep on going, keep everyone motivated. There were pony rides also, yeah. The pony was white with red and blue throughout her Threw out her hair and mane. So you can see pictures on my Facebook. So John's posting the links where you can contact us there. So anyone have any last minute questions or anything you'd like us to address? And for anyone who thinks Romney will be better for Obama, I don't really.
Better than Obama?
Romney would be better than Obama. Really, he's. Think of it this way: Would you rather have former years of Obama if Ron Paul doesn't get the nomination and doesn't win, and then be able to put up a good candidate in 4 years, or have 8 years of Mitt Romney potentially and not be able to put up another candidate in 4 years, and and then have potentially a Democrat go in 4 years, which is just the cycle that we've been going down for the last however many years, So it's
Romney's basically just a white Obama. So if he gets in and then in 4 years, more than likely the Republican Party would just put him back up on the ticket. And so you'd have Romney and a Democrat, which wouldn't be very great, most likely.
Besides, Romney doesn't look like he can beat Obama anyway. So anyone who, I was talking to someone on Facebook the other day about who was a Ron Paul supporter, but now is just going to get behind the nominee, which is really silly in my opinion. And he was saying, well, I don't understand why people say there's no difference between Romney and Obama. And I said, well, what is the difference? I really don't understand. And he said, Mitt Romney said he's going to repeal Obamacare. I was like, great, that's my point. There's no difference. He created the blueprint for it, and then he's going to talk about how he's going to repeal it. And let's see, he just has a pattern of doing stuff over the years, saying he'll do something, and then he does the opposite. Yeah, repeal and replace it. So there is no difference. It's really a stupid thing that for someone who's going to say Mitt Romney is so different than Obama. Yeah, definitely. We have Romney care and Obamacare. They're going to go against each other, and supposedly Romney's going to win because he doesn't want Obamacare, but he wants Romney care. Yeah, it makes a lot of logical sense.
There's no way really Romney can beat Obama anyway. Because all of us Ron Paul supporters will not vote for him.
Exactly.
Most likely.
I also saw someone say the Supreme Court decision just fired them up to get behind Mitt Romney for the nominee. I was like, well, it's real logical, when you have someone who, what is that going to do? The GOP kind of lacks some logic, common sense, which, as we say around here, isn't so common most of the time. So we really appreciated y'all listening and watching again. We'll be back next Monday, Lord willing, from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sorry. So you can find us on Facebook at our Facebook links that have been posted, or the blog, Liberty Live blog team.wordpress.com, or our YouTube channel, Liberty Stream Team. John will post those links again. And so we have a short little message for the goodbye stuff, and see y'all again soon.
Bye. Liberty, peace, love, fear God, Ron Paul. Thanks for watching.